going to go on a bicycle ride. But first we're stopping here at the, what does it say? Historical Museum, 1885 train depot, and one-room schoolhouse.
In Hernando.
Brooksville.
Brooksville, sorry.
We're probably not going to see the one-room schoolhouse, but we're going to go into the
No,
train
it's
depot.
right next door. You have to have
It's over there.
Yeah, that's it.
And then we're going to take the bicycles on the bicycle trail, which is called the Good Neighbor? Good Neighbor.
The Good Neighbor
Bicycle Trail.
Trailhead, yeah. That's where we're at right now, the Good Neighbor Trailhead.
Yeah, at the trailhead.
Yeah.
I like the word trailhead.
I do too.
We should be trailheads. That should be like our theme. We're trailheads.
Oh, there you go.
Like some people are parrot heads.
Yeah.
We're trailheads.
But this is a beautiful area. The trees here, they're absolutely outstanding past the schoolhouse. Nothing but trees, and it's absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. Love the terrain.
Yeah. And the terrain. The terrain and the terrain.
Yeah.
All right, let's go inside.
Back in that days, the Pony Express was a big thing. And Pony Express came in and said, hey, you know, your wife is definitely ill. You need to come home. So he sold his stuff out and packed his stuff up and went home and everything. It was about a 2-week ordeal from her. She originally came down sick till he got there, and she had already died, all right? So he said, there's got to be a better way of being able to do this than the Pony Express. Mm-hmm. And so he came up with the teletype. In fact, but as a side note, the Pony Express really only lasts 18 months in our history. So that wasn't a real long time in history. People last for 20, 30, 40 years. It was 18 months ordeal before they come up with the idea. Say, we got to do something better than that.
Well, that was really quick because every time somebody has an idea, somebody else tries to
improve on it.
Right. And if you have found that out all the way throughout the museum here, you know that concept is always in it. Here's an idea, let's start it from here and go from there. And you see that all the way throughout the whole museum. Mm-hmm. We take an idea and go from it. In this particular case, it was a teletype, you know. So now we're telegraph, you know, back and forth, back and forth. Now, as I talk about like improvements, you're always like improvement. One guy sit there and he smoked Prince Albert. They put Albert in the tobacco. That's what they take it out of a can, they put it in a cigarette and roll it up and smoke it. And they put their empty can up there in their sounding box.
Oh.
Okay, now you got to think back about those days. What it is, this is noisy as heck. We got engines coming in and out. We got people coming in and out buying stuff, doing fairs and stuff. We got teletype going on all the time. You heard different types of, and so it's awfully hard to hear this, right?
It's very loud.
Right, but this amplified the noise. And he said, well, you know what? We just put all our empty cans up there. And that's what they did. They back again, they figured out a little bit, make it a little bit better by putting their empty Prince Albert cans up there, and they hear the sounds coming better.
Isn't that something?
Right.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And does the other end of the desk look just like this with drawers?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, this is what one was man sat on one side, one was sat on the other. It was actually turned around. So, but this for our convenience, we put it in here.
Wow.
So this is actually the real actual desk that was in here used.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
I think
my
that picture
gosh.
was 1910.
Oh,
Wow.
my gosh.
Right. This is the actual desk that was in here for that time. So
That is really something.
it's the only one piece, only furniture that is original. This plus there's a white bench back by the railroad station, by the railroad trains back there. That was the story behind the one out there. The rail master was here when they decorated one time. They took it home. He took it home. He had it at his house, and then time goes on. It fell all apart, and he died. And then when he died, his daughter sat there and says, "What am I going to do with this? All this everything." And so she gave it back to us, and we spent a ton of. It's got 37 spokes in the back. We spent a ton of time putting it back together, trying to figure out it's like a jigsaw puzzle that you had to hold together. And we put it all back together, and so it's back here too. Made itself back home too. So
Wow.
I love the floor.
yes. Oh, about the floor. Let me tell you, brought down the floor with just a little sidetrack. The floor, especially outside, you see it's a cypress floor. You notice there's gaps between the floor. And the reason for the gaps is that's air conditioning can come up. It's the cooling air from the ground come up and rises and everything. So that was how they kept it cool.
Oh, wow.
So that was the purpose of having slots in the thing. It's not that they were sloppy carpenter. That's how they did it, to bring up cool air from the ground underneath the ground.
Each other to do. They went home, got their guns, came back. That counting to 10 business, forget it. And they shot each other dead. It was
Oh no.
it's said to be the last formal duel that took place.
Oh my gosh.
This name, Julius Higginbotham, struck a chord with me because I bought a house here in Brooksville, right up on Main Street, 6 or so years ago, and it was built by Theophilus Higginbotham.
Oh my God.
And I saw this, and I looked in.
Related?
Well,
You're not
according
sure?
to Ancestry.com, yes, he could be one of like 10 or so children.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah.
Wow.
Now, it was hard finding out information about my house because our courthouse burned down in the 1870s. Because there was a mixed race marriage, it was the townspeople at the time were not happy about that. The preacher was murdered, and the person's testimony that was written down and sent to the courthouse, well, we got rid of that, burned down the courthouse.
Oh no.
So with that, all of the records went. So back in 1985, we were able to get a grant, not we, but there was the town did, to survey the remaining, families and owners of the houses or people living in the house who might know some history, and we got information. And so my house was actually built by Theophilus Higginbotham back in 1858. Property records here in town still show it at 1910 or something as being built. Because they have no idea. So you really have to, and so we actually keep those records here in the museum, and we've had quite a few people do research and all of that. Now, once it burned down, well, now let's try and protect our records in the future. So they had these huge metal cabinets and canvas-covered records, pretty light when they're empty of paper, but when full of paper.
Oh, I see. Big difference.
So they have little rollers to roll them out, but there's a guy here working with this behind him, and I suspect he had really strong biceps from the work with that.
Wow, look at these trains in here.
Yes, now everything in here has been donated except for that desk over there. So, this is the latest. We just got that one came in, but we have the passenger type trains and the freight type trains. This was actually built by a local. It's a replica.
Wow.
And this is how they name the trains. This one is identified as a 0 because there's no wheels in the front. 6 because there's 6 wheels, 3 on each side in the middle. And 0 because there's no wheels in the back of the engine. Now we have a big boy out there that has like 4884.
Oh, wow.
So but this one can only go around like on flat ground in the switch yard, so it's called a switch yard 060.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
back in the 1930s, we had a very entrepreneurial type who said, let me make trains out of tin, or tin plated, and it has a key that you can wind it up, and you could buy the engine for $1 and all of the cars for like 10 cents a piece.
Oh.
And there's no track required because it just runs around on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
And so you could, at a time when people were making $1 a day, for about $1.50 a day and a half's work, you could get your kid a train.
That's nice. That's a nice train.
Wonderful.
So we have Lionel trains. We have the Hornby train is the Thomas the Tank style. Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
All right. Keep on going.
We're getting our $5 worth. This is good.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
If you're running out of time, you've had enough. You
No,
just let me
we're
know,
doing
but
good. You're doing awesome.
I can go on for quite a while. So here's our signal man, and people have donated all different colors of lanterns, which is good because we have color coding for the lanterns, and red, of course, is stop. But you could also, with a plain lantern color, you could use the hand signals to say, so stop would have been just going across the tracks like that.
Did they have a time when they had to be at the intersection of the tracks to do the flags?
Now, I've not been asked that question. I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that something?
So you've got here something that most people know what that is. From
Oh, yeah.
the old westerns. That's a spittoon.
Cowboys.
This is not a spittoon.
No, I don't know
What is that?
is.
What is it?
Oh, it's a potty?
There is.
Oh
And
no.
it says, please don't empty it out the window. And I would say, especially if the train is moving, because it would.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Now, hobos, in the again in the Depression time, the center of the country had a drought, and it became a dust bowl, and that was that the all the topsoil blew away, and you couldn't grow anything, and so of course there were no jobs either, and people were starving, so they would just jump on a train, and they couldn't pay to get on, so they'd jump on any old place. And they called them hobos. Do you know what hobo stands for?
No.
No.
Homeward bound.
Oh, I had no
I
idea.
never knew that.
Now these here
I just thought they were drifters.
are hobo signs and symbols that they would mark with a piece of charcoal on the side of a building. Just like you would use spray paint today to tag something. They would tag that a nice lady lives here, or a doctor won't charge you there, or a man with a gun lives here.
Oh,
So,
at the
watch out.
residents themselves, or the business that they
They
would go
would
by?
do it when they'd stop in a town. They'd find out what was going on, and
Oh
they'd,
wow.
warn the next person. Or
Which one is a nice lady lives here? I want to know that one.
There's a cat.
A nice lady lives here.
All right, this is a boxcar.
This is a boxcar, Robin.
Boxcars
Let you
can
go in
be
first.
Is this the one that they found that the gentleman told us about in there?
in the green swamp.
Yeah.
So yes, they tell you here. It is around 1880. If you come this way, you'll see the pictures of what it looked like when we found it in the green swamp.
So it was just in there. It was submerged and. Oh my gosh! Look at that.
There are a lot of abandoned train cars around.
Really? Who would know? Gosh. This is wow, and this is the actual size of a train
So you
car.
can see, if you look back at the floor down there, you'll see about every other board had to be replaced. And, you know,
Oh my
compare
gosh.
what this wood looks like with, on that side, obviously that was newer and had to be replaced. So, yeah.
Very
Isn't
cool.
this something? This is pretty amazing.
Now, there's a great book called Last Train to Paradise. My book discussion group read this, and it's about a nonfiction about Flagler's building the last leg of the Florida train line to Key West.
Oh wow.
First chapter is not a very long book, but it reads very well because first chapter is about the 1935 hurricane that wiped it out.
Ah.
And then they go back to, you know, chronologically how he built it, and the last chapter goes right back to the hurricane again,
Oh
which was
wow.
about 20 years after he finished the train track.
And was Edison sort of responsible for the trains going down to South Florida too?
I don't know much about that. What this talks about is how Flagler made his money with Rockefeller in Standard Oil, and then this was almost like a hobby to him. He built it to St. Augustine and put up a hotel and brought all his rich friends down.
Yeah.
And then he went on down to Palm Beach and again built a hotel and so on.
Oh my gosh.
And in this book they say he was the father of Florida. But he, instead of putting his workers in tents, which the government did with the World War I soldiers that they couldn't pay and they sent down to work on the railroad, of course our big storms would blow those tents away, so Flagler actually brought down these 3-story bunkhouses for his workers.
Oh my gosh.
So the bicycle trail is what we're going to do after this.
Right
and
here.
that used to be a railroad line?
That's where the railroad line went. So there's the
So with this train that we're in, right on that track?
it would have, yes, this would have been the track because you'd bring things right off of the depot and right in the door of the train.
Wow.
Isn't this something?
Look at that suitcase.
It says the cook on it.
So here's where they'd be cooking.
Oh, wow.
This is a coal stove. Inside we have a wood stove. And most things are made of cast iron, and that you could cast it quite easily and not as expensive, but they took longer to heat. So then you would usually spend a little extra money and get a copper kettle if you could, because that would heat up in a hurry, and for anything you needed hot water for, whether it was washing or having a cup of tea or whatever, you would want to have that.
Oh my gosh.
And you didn't have to use as much fuel, coal, to do that. And here is a meat grinder. You would put in chunks of meat, and hamburger came out this side. There's an egg beater.
Oh wow.
Things came in sacks. They came in barrels, the cans, crates. Over there is a milk can used by the railroad to transport milk in the 18. And that, we couldn't get ice down here in Florida until the trains, because in the train you could pack it with a lot of straw and you could bring huge quantities down.
Oh.
But it was much faster than any other way of getting it here at that time.
Now, was the triangle how you called them to eat?
Yes,
And
of course. So
I want to see that. I want to hear that.
generally we let our
Robin, that's just.
we let our customers do this, but not in a pandemic.
There we go.
There we go.
Here we go. Time to eat.
I like to do a little what's this? You happen to know what this is?
Robin, what do you think that is? I'm going to guess it's for cooking, right?
Nope.
Oh gosh, is that to squash your tea bags?
Nope. No tea bags back then.
Okay. What would that be?
This is called a soap saver.
Ah.
Little bits of soap that are left over you can't really use to wash yourself with.
Right.
You would put them in here. And then you could swish it around and get soapy water.
Oh, well, that was pretty smart.
Called a soap saver.
We need one of
We're
them.
going to trade places now so that these folks can come. Hi.
All right.
Hi. There's somebody in there. You can go on in.
You can go on in there. I'll take your money.
Oh, excuse
Mother
me.
would love that. About the two Henrys and how Henry Flagler went down the red line all the way down to Key West. So he went on the east side.
Oh, okay.
And Plant came down to the west side to Fort Myers and Tampa, and we are a spur off of that Plant line.
Okay.
So in part of the university in Tampa is the Plant Museum.
Oh, I've seen that. We've seen that, Robert, across the river.
Oh, I never knew that there was another Henry.
Oh, yeah,
outside of
yeah.
Henry Flagler.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, we have some things had to be standardized. This is the newspaper picture of the train that was knocked off by the hurricane.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my gosh.
Oh, they said about that the Cubans were much better at predicting the weather back then than we were, but we were too proud to take their advice when they said, "This is coming, watch out."
Yeah, yeah.
And so a trainload of soldiers had been picked up and, just dilly-dallied, and boom, it killed them all.
Oh, my gosh.
So
Oh my God.
all the states had control of their time during those times, and we were going cross-continental with a train, with the railroad. That wasn't working for schedules. So after a lot of pressure from the railroads, in 1883, the Congress standardized time in the U.S.
Okay.
Really?
Took it out of the hands of the states.
But it was really because of the railroad needs,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, it was.
Pretty amazing.
They also had to standardize the gauge, the distance between the rails, because lots of companies, to get their stuff to a ship, would put down rails, but maybe a sugar cane would be lightweight and therefore very narrow gauge, and they'd fall over sometimes. And lumber would need really wide, because they were taking huge
Wow.
trees. And so, you couldn't connect what was already existing. You had to lay new
Right.
rails. And it was about the width of a stagecoach, 4 foot 8.5 inches.
Okay. Okay.
I was corrected last week by somebody who actually built trains and stuff, and I said 4 foot 8, and he said 8.5.
4 foot 8 and a half.
About how wide is the boxcar out
I don't know.
It's gonna be,
Well, it's where the wheels are, of course.
oh, okay, and then the boxcar extends a little bit more over that.
Very cool.
Boy, this is so amazing.
So we were called Crackers. This is a cracker kitchen. This is that wood stove I was telling you about. Why are we called Crackers?
I
Well,
think
because of
the
oh, go
whip.
ahead.
No, I think it was the whip, right? So,
Yes, it is the
Yeah.
cracking of the whip. Of course, later, that might have been applied to the slavery issue and so on. But actually, it came before that. When the Spaniards came, they brought cattle, and they became just wild. These big horns, and second only to Texas, Florida has the most cattle.
Oh,
So-
didn't know that.
That's, Crackers is a very appropriate name.
I didn't know
because-
that either.
Yes,
Wow.
big cattle country. So anyway, I was telling you how things are made of cast iron, and an iron is made of cast iron
Right.
all the way through to the handle. So you had to put my
Like
water
a-
is going to be in your picture.
Like a hot pad
You'd have
or
to
something.
you'd have to use a rag, and after it cooled off, you'd have to put it back down on the stove again and put more wood in and so on. So a woman in the early 1900s came up with the cold-handled sat iron.
Oh,
The handle was made of wood, and it came with 3 bases and a trivet. Now, 2 bases would stay on the stove, while the third one would be hot, and you would do your ironing. When it got cool, and if anybody interrupted you, you could put it on the trivet, and then you wouldn't burn your clothes. But anyway,
okay.
and you'd bring it back over to the stove and swap the handle.
That's
yeah, they're nice.
amazing.
how
That's a
clever.
very clever idea.
How clever. I see the pressure cooker down there. That is huge. Wow.
Yeah, really.
Okay, well, you're so poor that they would dress you in a flour sack. Well, that was what a flour sack sort of looked like, or even burlap or anything like that. Well, when the flour companies found out that this is what was happening, they started sending their flour in pretty packages. And of course that made them, you could get 2 uses out of the same thing.
So they had to dye them then. To use dye to make all the pretty ones. Oh my gosh.
No, this is how the company would send it to you.
Oh, the company would send it that way.
Yeah.
Oh
so you
my
didn't have to
gosh.
buy pretty
Pretty fabric from
fabric, which
anywhere.
would cost you a fortune.
Oh my
Now-
gosh.
You would have a wash tub, a scrub board, a wringer would get the most of the water out. So when you hung it up, it would dry quicker, and you would iron. You'd sprinkle it and iron it. But this had a purpose.
What is that?
What you tell me?
Do you know what that is?
Oh, that's the agitator.
You're right. Yes. People will say plunger and stuff. Yeah, you plunge it, but it is.
The
It's the
agitator.
washing machine or the agitator. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. So there is a story. They tell it more detailed, I think, in the in our other museum. But you would spin the wool or the cotton into yarn, and then it would be picked up on this. And when it was full, this little metal pin would pop out, and that pin was called the weasel. And Pop Goes the Weasel came from
That's
the
where it
whole
comes
story.
from?
Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
had no idea.
Wow.
Pop goes the weasel. Look at these saddles over here.
Now, the cattle, we were free range until 1948.
Oh, what does
So-
that mean?
Well, that means they just wandered anywhere, the cows.
Oh,
So
okay.
Brooksville actually hired a guy to be a traffic cop to get the cows out of the road when the wagons needed to come through, or trucks later on. Because 1948 was, they had cars by then.
Yeah.
And then, see, 1949, they had barbed wire. So they said, nah, you gotta
gee.
pen them.
That is nasty looking stuff.
We have tons of tools, and I can't,
Look at the size of this hammer here. This is a big hammer.
I don't talk about them because there's just too many. Everything was weighed. The scale was a floor scale. It was here. You would bring things in off of your wagon or truck through the rolling barn door, weigh it here, and then this is another rolling barn door. Would open up and you'd take the stuff right out onto the train.
Look at
Everything was charged according to weight.
Oh, wow. Does this still work? The scale?
Well, it's been chopped so that it won't.
Good, because I don't want you to know how much I weigh.
Now, this here, you'd put a pole across it, and there's pictures of it with a mule at the end, and it has a screw to it, which it screws down and is a juicer of sugar cane. So the juice would be squeezed out of the sugar cane and then into a cauldron like that, where it would get boiled down till you have cane syrup.
Okay.
Now, up north, you tap a maple tree and you get your syrup that way. Well, here, you tap a pine tree and get turpentine. You have to distill it and then you have turpentine. Now, so those are two items that were shipped out of here. They also constituted the main ingredients in the elixirs that would cure you of everything. And of course, they would add something from a still like that.
Oh my gosh.
To make it so that people would come back for more. And we were a dry county in Hernando until the 1950s. In 1955, the sheriff blew up the big still in town.
Oh man.
They were making so much money off of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and they
That
weren't
they-
sharing it with the.
That's probably it.
Okay.
Look at the old stuff
Now-
in there.
All of this is what's left of Centralia. Now, Centralia, these pictures here will show you when it was big and bustling, they were cutting down the trees. Three types. The first one was cypress, which they built houses out of. It's insect resistant, and its feet are in water, so it could deal with the humidity and so on. Cedar, which you would think would be similar, but that was all sent to New York to the Faber Pencil Company, where they made these beautiful cedar trees into pencils.
Oh, so they made that in New York then,
In New York, yeah.
but the trees were from here.
Yes.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
guess New York paid a lot for that. Anyway, and then you had the pine, which of course would make your furniture and your floors. So
These look like original floorboards.
yes, they are. We're constantly putting little things on them to keep people from tripping or falling through.
Does the model railroad here represent an actual town?
No, this one is just an imaginary one. Over there we have our actual town, and the buildings are all to scale on that one.
Oh wow.
It's all been shut down because of the pandemic. You can see all of the things are closed up here.
Right.
We have, it's because the people that brought this here maintain it for us, and the tracks need constant maintenance because of the humidity, and we end up with train wrecks and all of that.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully we'll get that all back working again later on. Now Centralia, there is a Centralia Road still in existence, but 19 cuts right through where Centralia used to be.
Oh, so there is a name, Centralia.
Here's our 1925 fire truck. I bought it from New York. It's a LaFrance model. It's got the wheel on the opposite side, you'll see. Cost $12,500 back in 1925. That was a lot of money, and we have lots of letters saying, will you please make a payment? Now, our
really?
shop class of 1987 in Hernando High School shop class restored it, and it was in our Christmas parade, which is one of the biggest in Central Florida, and one of my tour people came through and said, I have a picture of me in the Christmas parade.
Oh wow.
Oh, isn't that something?
It's nice to get things that prove, the history that they have. We had to get the fire department out to inflate these about a year ago because the tires had started to go down, and nothing we had would be
fill 'em
strong
up?
enough to do it.
Wow.
Now look, you had to crank this to get it started. So fire, crank.
Oh my gosh.
It has a bell and it has
Oh
a
my.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but this is more fun when you do it.
Now, without motors, you had wheels and levers. You know, we used to learn about all this in school, and
Right,
exactly. These are the sorts of things you'd use. This is a drill press with lots of gears, and our docents have gotten, you know, used lubricant and stuff to get it all working nicely. Here, you used leverage to push with your feet when you're sitting here. It brought this forward and clamped a piece of cedar, and then you would shave off
Okay.
cedar shingles, which were then used.
Oh, shingles were made from this.
Yes, were then used to the siding of the house or the even the roof.
Shave horse.
Isn't that fascinating?
Look at that cash register. Wow.
This is so fascinating.
Now this is not 1800s here, but during World War II, this was donated to us, and it's an interesting story of how in Dade City they had a German concentration camp. 200
In Dade City, they had a German concentration.
250 prisoners were making bricks and picking citrus.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
People captured off of U-boats and whatever, you know.
Oh my gosh, who knew about that?
What's the story of the bell?
It's a school bell.
It's a school bell.
It's in Hillsborough County in this case. You would turn the wheel and that would make it go back and forth.
Oh, wow.
The clapper would clang clang. This building here is still on Howell Street. Now, Main Street is the first street you come to on this end, and if you turn right, you go right past the courthouse, which we talked about, and on the other side of the courthouse turns into Howell Avenue. It's the same street, and there is a place called, instead of the Tangerine Hotel, which was the original thing then in that spot, it's now the Tangerine Retirement Center or assisted living place or whatever. Anyway,
So
so these are the old key boxes.
the people use the building now.
Yes, they do.
Retirement.
Oh my
Still
gosh.
there. But in 1931, so it was there in 1931, a murder of the of Herbert Smithson. He tells the whole story there. But anyway, guys, drive-by shooting basically. They thought of him. He was the city attorney. Sorry, Brooksville city attorney. But they thought of him as a revenuer or something. You know, the government agent who was going to shut down their moonshine business. So they killed him. Now, I belong to the Women's Club, and it was built in 1931, or opened for the first time in 1931. So I went back and looked at the records of who were members, and Mrs. Herbert Smithson, you can't find first names for these women. Mrs. Herbert Smithson belonged in 1931, and not in 1932.
Oh, so she was gone too.
Oh
She
my
took him
gosh.
home, took his remains back to Alabama in disgust.
Oh my gosh.
So this bench came out of a different train depot, one that was falling apart, just like the bench is, but we still loved it. And
Look, I love it. Yeah.
it shows that this was all segregated, right, the whole time period that it was around. So the blacks were out in the weather. This was covered, and you had a place to sit, which, you know.
Are these bicycle wheels from those big bicycles, or what are those?
Those are hay wagons wheels.
Oh,
And then the bicycle is there. You can see that it was a solid piece of rubber.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Isn't this fascinating?
Now, the kind of prices in the 1920s and 30s look like they're very cheap over there posted on the wall, but they were only making $1 a day. We talked about that with the trains up front. It seems that that Franklin Roosevelt stole from the war chest and created the Civic Conservation Corps, which was the CCC, and 50,000 young, teenagers like 13, 14, whatever, and they were sent down here. They were paid $1 a day, which is $30 a month, but they were only given 5. They were fed, housed, clothed, and taught how to build roads, bridges, houses, buildings of all sorts, and to work in teams. Now the other $25 went home to their families, and some 3 million families were saved from starvation by the CCC children's.
Wow.
Now, it all stopped. Now, they had all kinds of fights with the War Department. They don't want you spending our money on this war. And then it all stopped with Pearl Harbor. And now you had thankful, patriotic young men trained to work in teams and with skills who were off to war.
Yeah.
How fascinating.
So what
is
happened?
that?
They were off to war. So everything fell apart?
Oh, yeah, well, the CCC stopped, that was for sure. But it was done, as like many of the work programs, was done because they were trying to bring us out of a depression. And, by giving them skills, I'm sure that they then had skillful people to come back from war and be much more productive than they were before. Now, if you have a dream, go for it. This woman, Winnie Rogers, here in Brooksville, transformed this town by her love of Christmas. Before most people, they had year-round Christmas shops.
Right.
She loved Christmas, and she took 5 very historic buildings up on the hill, and each one had a different theme. And people came by the busload from Tampa and all around, and there were signs out on the highway on 75 saying the Rogers Christmas house this way. And people who come through here who live locally said, we came every year. We had to go back and see it again. She was married, but they didn't have children.
Oh.
So when she went, it went to a relative who didn't, follow in the footsteps. So if you've got a passion, go for it. This town really suffered as a result of the closing of that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And we were the home of the tangerine. All these different companies shipped out of here.
Oh my.
And 2 years of frost wiped them out. But then they tried to come back.
Never
did?
did?
Well, citrus greening came along. And that wiped out, anything that was there. But they built one of the first packing houses here in Brooksville, and they said that the town smelled of citrus from it. But when you could crate things now, then you could send them riper than you would otherwise, because they would not bruise and all of that as much when they were in crates.
Well, you could smell the trees when they were blooming back in the 70s and the 60s.
Yeah.
When you're driving, you could actually smell the citrus.
Yes, I know. Beautiful.
It is just beautiful, beautiful.
I have a friend in town who does have one that is living and has delicious fruit, but that's a rarity.
We are at the Good Neighbor Trail.
Yeah, we are in Brooksville, Florida. Boy, is it nice.
So just a few feet from here, we just had a really nice tour at the Railroad Museum, and now we're going to do the bicycle trail that used to be the railroad line.
Oh yeah, and this is so exciting. Boy, did we have a great tour, and look at this. Gorgeous.
Now the challenge for me is going to be to ride the bicycles on the old railroad trail without saying, woo.
Well, no, we have to go. Woo!
Let's go.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
The black stretch limo just zipped on by. And,
Oh, really?
yeah, and then I waited for the other vehicle before I could cross the street.
No, I didn't see it. So this is 484, I think. Mandan Hill Road.
And McIntyre Road.
And McIntyre Road, yeah.
We'll be crossing McIntyre.
I think I saw 484 somewhere. Oh, that's it. Oh, this is 484 right here.
Oh, okay.
Mandan Hill Road. It's 484.
484. Okay.
All right. We've come 5 1/4 miles so far.
Oh, yeah. Boy, does it feel good too, doesn't it?
Feels pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
Debating now whether I want to go back, because that'll be 10 and a half.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Let's
I had
see.
to walk up my second hill, but I'm okay.
Let me think about this now.
Yeah.
When we went 17 miles, wasn't that the big one we did a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, yeah, that was the
I
big
was
one.
so worn out. That was unbelievably worn out. That was the one that ended at Publix, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah.
17.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all
But
right.
then we
good
did,
that day.
what did we do, 14 last week or 2 weeks ago?
I think so, yeah. I can't recall what
Wasn't
we did
as
Saturday.
bad. But if we do this whole thing, it's 20.
Yeah.
And there's
that's
really
right.
nothing on this road. I mean, this is like nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's called
this is
the
it.
Good Neighbor Road, but there's no neighbors.
Yeah, but there are. There are a lot of houses, with no outlets on each side of the street.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it's like I feel like we're in the country all of it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are.
There's a lot of dogs. We heard a couple gunshots, and
One. We heard one gunshot.
no, I heard two. I heard one with you when we were there, and then when I was walking up that hill,
I'm amazed.
I heard another one.
When you hear a gunshot, that you know what they're shooting at. You say, "Oh, they're shooting at snakes."
No, I guess they're shooting at snakes, or I think they're shooting at snakes. Because I don't know if this is spring gobbler season or not. So, I mean, they're either shooting at snakes or they're target practice or whatever it is they do with their guns.
I never had a spring gobbler season in my life.
Oh my gosh. But no, this is great. And I can see why this is, named the Good Neighbor Trail, because all of these houses, and they're so serene, and it's very friendly feeling.
Maybe State Farm sponsors it.
Oh, there you go. Haven't seen that kind of sign yet.
But there are stickers. I should aim the camera at one of them. Very close to one another. It gives you a number and to call 911 in case of emergency.
Right, exactly. I took one on my way walking up the
Oh, you-
last hill.
oh, you did?
Yeah, with the shadow of my front basket on my bicycle.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, here comes another bicyclist. He's almost here behind us.
Yeah, they're all better than
There
us.
he is. Oh, yeah.
They're all way better than us. But
Yeah, but see, we're in it for the enjoyment
Look at that
too.
mirror.
Of
Look at that.
looking. Where?
on my eye, on the picture here.
Oh, yeah, I see
It's right
that.
on my eye. I am mighty. I'm a pirate. Look at me. I'm a pirate.
And you know what? People make fun of us because we have mirrors, but I like to see who's coming up behind me. I don't want to be surprised because sometimes you can't hear their tires on the asphalt.
Well, the helmet hopefully would help us if we ever fell on our heads, but the mirror helps us all the time.
Yeah, it does. It does. I really enjoy it.
All right, I'm getting tired of holding this camera up.
Okay.
All right, let's get back to resting. Because
Okay.
that's what we're doing.
Wait, let me take a picture of us in the camera. Where are we? There we are. Oh, look at that. He's got little
That keeps the sand out of her eyes.
Oh,
My wheels kicked
your
up.
little sunglasses.
My wheels kicked up sand in there.
Look at the size of those wheels. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, cute. Boy, that's the best part of this trip.
Another rest day. You have to walk up the hill?
No, I finally made it.
Oh, good.
Convinced myself I can do this. I'm all the way down in first gear to the very, very lowest ever. And that helped me, so I was good. Yay!
We made it back.
Yeah, we did. Wow. And it's beautiful with the sun starting to set, too.
I think 10.5 miles, something like that.
Yeah, that worked for me today. That worked for me today, but
Me too.
we had to get out and do something, and
Good
you
day.
had a good suggestion this morning, so thank you.
Good day.
Good day.
All right, take care, kids. Remember, the world spins fine.
On her own.